Israel to allay our fears and to explain the highlights of Israel is Jacob Goldfine, who was sent on behalf of the government of Israel, the Ministry of Tourism. He is a member of Eshkolot Tours in Jerusalem and in 1986 received the Distinguished Tourism Employee of Israel Award. We're very, very pleased to have him with us. Welcome to Focus.
Shalom, and
Shalom.
I'm very pleased to be here with you.
Oh, we're pleased to have you because a lot of people are thinking, I'd love to go to Israel, but should I go? How do you encourage people? How do you convince them it's perfectly safe to go to Israel?
First of all, I think that people have to learn after all these years that the human eye has the widest angle, and when a person sees the country face to face, he realizes that the realities after watching TV or reading newspapers are totally different by walking and talking to the people than what he saw over there. For instance, let me share with you, I'm coming just from Israel a week and a half ago, happened an incident, and all people whom I'm talking to say to me it happened at the wall, the Western Wall. Well, first of all, to correct, it didn't happen at the Western Wall, it happened outside the wall of old Jerusalem in a parking lot. So it's like as if someone is giving you a blow on the head or misses your ear. That makes a big difference. Second, our country is a very safe one. People walk in the streets, children play, women go with small children to the wall, hours before, hours after, and I've been with American tourists there who can actually testify on what I'm saying here, that it's a safe country, and they felt absolutely secured from every possible point of view.
Well, the moment you get off the plane, you're aware of it. The security forces are so strong, airport and throughout Israel.
That is correct. Yeah. In other words, I would say if I wouldn't see security, I would begin to worry.
Right, right. What about the ages? You know, some people say, well, my child's too young to go to Israel, I wouldn't appreciate it. What about families thinking of going? Is there an age where they should start going, or is there something for everybody?
I think it's for everybody. It's an experience because this small, magnificent country has every possible aspect that can satisfy the potential tourist. Either he is a pilgrim who wants to go to see just the holy places and meditate there and gain a great spiritual experience by going through that magnificent Bible history, either for Christians or Jews. Or it's a man who wants to come just for scuba diving in the Red Sea, which is a great thrill by itself, and in the meantime also to see other places of interest. Or it's somebody who wants to go there for any possible reason, for medical purposes, by bathing in the Dead Sea, to cure various kinds of diseases, or lay sometimes there in the sun without any fear of ultraviolet rays, because the extra layer of air there filters those dangerous rays. So there is no such threat by lying there in the sun all day long in the Dead Sea area.
So you don't need your
that by itself is a very special, because it's the lowest point on Earth below sea level. Many more examples: archaeology, sports. I just watched the marathon run here in Chicago, and we have a marathon yearly event around the Sea of Galilee, around Lake Kinneret, that we call it. Complete the whole circle running around the lake and watch all this beautiful view at the same time. What can be prettier than this?
You know, Jacob, let's say I'm a first-time visitor to Israel, and I was the person who accepted those tickets, let's say. Where are the sites? And I only have 2 weeks, let's be realistic, 2 weeks to spend in Israel. Where should I go so I don't miss the highlights? And I plan on going again in a few more years.
Well, I don't want to neglect one place in Israel and to say that one place is more important than the other. All of those places are magnificent. But for surely, Jerusalem is the highlights.
Yeah.
Jerusalem is number one. We say L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. I always say this year in Jerusalem. Why to delay to next year? And above all. Second, you have the Dead Sea area, you have the Galilee, which is lush and green, and the Negev region, which is one side of it is barren, the other side it's the cultivation with the fulfillment of the scriptures. Isaiah speaks about sprinklers of water, and you see it before your very own eyes. So I would say that I wouldn't even miss one link. In those 2 weeks, I would give a portion of that cake for Jerusalem, for the Galilee, for the coastal area, the Negev.
All right,
fourth.
Then, for the sake of, later we're going to have some videos of these places and some slides intermittently. For the sake, let's start pretending, like a kind of a passage to adventure. We're going to Israel. Where's the first place most people go? Would it be?
Jerusalem.
No, I mean, let's say we are in Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
Would one go to the wall on Friday night for the Shabbat?
Because it's a very special night. Of course, it's one night a week that people gather there to feel the atmosphere of people who come to pray at the wall, the beginning of Shabbat prayers. And that is an experience that every group, every person who comes to Israel must watch that at night on Shabbat evening.
What about places of historical significance to really get the feel for, oh, King David was here, the Mount of Olives, Mount Hermon?
Well, if it's in the summer, I take groups of youngsters even through Hezekiah's tunnel, the ancient water system of Jerusalem. We walk with flashlights and we see how the two groups of diggers met some 2,700 years ago underneath the ground. Since an inscription that was found there have described it, we realize that we are actually dealing with living history.
Yeah.
It's not just reading a book and saying how wonderful it was, but there we can really feel it.
As a matter of fact, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were unearthed, are on display in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, we have that in the Shrine of the Book, a very interesting display, but this is not the earliest text of the Bible history that was found of the days of the Bible. The latest news are about an earlier version of an inscription, a prayer from the book of the Bible, from the Old Testament, that was found in Jerusalem. It dates back to First Temple's period, on a piece of thin silver. And it's on display right now at the Israel Museum.
You mentioned a recent discovery. As a matter of fact, you were fortunate enough to have, you were actually around the Sea of Galilee, and a group of people were at that point discovering something very, very significant in Jewish history. And if you could tell us about that.
Yes, it's a good example what you can go through in this country. We went about 2 weeks ago to see an excavation in the Galilee area, not far from Tel Hatzor, which is a great archaeological site of one of the ancient cities mentioned in the Bible. And the archaeologists were already ready to leave, packing their things in order to renew the excavations next year. They've already discovered most interesting synagogue, but not of the times of the Second Temple. And they made a final dig and final check by digging under the foundation of that building, and suddenly a mosaic started to appear. And suddenly letters in Hebrew started to appear. And I started to take pictures. That was the moment I did not have to knock my head against the wall, that I didn't bring my camera, because then they started to see, here are letters in Hebrew, like the letters of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that was a great discovery, because later on I've realized that I took shots of the first moments of the discovery of a Beit Midrash, the oldest Bible study in world, of the times of the Second Temple.
That's really a thrill, and this demonstrates how this can happen every day. It's just filled. I mean, it is a source of unending, unlimited archaeological digs. In fact, we have with us a tape of Dig for a Day. This is more for the person, well, for the first-time visitor or second or third-time visitor, someone who's been to the wall, been to Yad Vashem. You want something a little bit different. So we'd like to show you this video of a Dig for a Day. As a matter of fact, the person who runs it is from Chicago.
My name is Fran Alpert, and if my English is nice and clear, it's because it's from Chicago. This morning, you're going to take part in a great adventure. Dig for a Day in the city of Jerusalem is probably one of the few opportunities where people like yourselves, here in the Holy City for a short time, can touch the soil and feel what it was like to be in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago.
What was it like to be in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago during the time of King Herod, the Maccabees, the Roman occupation? How did people live? What did they care about? Why should we care? Joining a one-day dig in the old city is one wonderful way to adventure travel through time, a journey many in our group were eager to make.
I want to feel history. I want to know where my ancestors came from, and I want to know more about it.
Archaeology to me is going back to my roots, tracing who I am.
I've never dug, so this opportunity was wonderful to get a chance to actually do hands-on, which I haven't done.
Hands-on experience is what Fran and Bernie Alpert specialize in at archaeological seminars. An adventure of the spirit, open to tourists of all ages.
We're going to dig in the Citadel, which is just a little bit west of where we're sitting now. And it's there that we'll be able to see how that giant fortress guarded the steps on which you are sitting now.
Our group, some of us experienced diggers, others out for the first time, will spend the better part of a day looking for broken pieces of pottery and old coins, the remnants and artifacts of civilizations long gone.
Welcome to the Citadel of David. This is more specifically the moat of the Citadel of David. 90% of this citadel, okay, specifically this area, the moat, has been excavated by people like yourselves who come for a one-day experience. I think a lot of us, especially in the Western world, tend to look at the Bible, look at our ancient sources, and we say, it's a bunch of fairy tales. It's for kids. It's something that we don't relate to on an adult level. And I think when one comes to Israel, when one gets involved in archaeology, when you start picking up shards, pottery from the time of the Maccabees, when you're looking at a wall or excavating next to a wall from the time of the prophet Isaiah, you're taking that material and you're de-fairy-taleizing it. You're looking at it and all of a sudden it's real. You're touching it. You're seeing where those different people that we read about once were. And you're part of it. In essence, we are uncovering our roots.
On a Mameluk coin.
Over here, you have some marks, and it's most likely from the Mameluke period, which is a period that is sometime around the Middle Ages.
Didi Kaufman is the Hebrew University archaeologist in charge of the Citadel dig site. She's impressed and delighted with the discoveries being made by the Dig for a Day groups, and so are her colleagues at the Citadel's museum.
To our great surprise, we have been finding here finds that are a big surprise to all the archaeological world. Finds from 8th, 7th century BC. It's very different when you read a book about something and you see pictures of something than if you take a vessel and you pick it up and you feel it and you know that from this vessel people drank or people cooked their fish or the meat or whatever it might be, and they really feel as though they're part of the people.
It's incredible. Can't believe it. 2 pieces of pottery.
We dug up a room. We're not sure what it was, but it's good to know that maybe in a few years someone's going to figure out what it was, and you could say that you started to dig that room.
As a teacher, I can tell you that's the way you learn best by being there, by touching it, by feeling it, by smelling it, by using all your senses. And that's exactly what you do when you're on a dig. You're using every one of your senses, and it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
It was different, it was very exciting, and I'm glad I came.
That means that
If
she will
you
be the
want
vice
to come to
president.
Israel to dig for a day, a week, or more, please write us, care of Adventure Travel in Israel, Box 4004, Chicago, Illinois 60654.
It was exciting. It's not something I'd do in Connecticut.
That's one way of digging into the past, actually grabbing a shovel in your hand. But there's another way, just as simple as the push of a button. And I believe that's at the Museum of the Diaspora in Tel Aviv, of going back into your past. If you can tell us something about that. I've been there, it's fascinating.
Yes, I think it's a thrill for every visitor to Israel, without any exception, to go to see a museum like this, because it's giving them an ability to understand not just the country, but the background of the people.
Sure.
And this is a story, the story of the Jewish people, how it was developed throughout history, and all the groups and the ethnic groups and the holidays and in different parts of the world, and all the history is combined together in one building, which shows it in the most sophisticated way and the most attractive way, which appeals to everyone, from children to adults. They can use computers there in order to learn about their own hometowns.
How does that work, for instance? If I go to the computer, what do I want to do? Find out my ancestry. What do I do?
You actually give the name, and then you can select according to the last names, and finally find out.
You can find out your family tree by pressing buttons.
More or less, not exactly, because it will bring you to, and then also about the city that someone came from, and the background, the history of that city, and the communities and so on. But it's getting more and more advanced in that respect, that they're feeding it with more and more information. And it's a process that takes many years. I can give you an example. For instance, we have archives in Yad Vashem in Jerusalem with over 2 million names of Jewish martyrs who were martyred during the Holocaust. And it's pages of testimony that were recorded there as a result of testimonies of people who visited Yad Vashem, who witnessed what happened to their relatives. And if they feed this information into the computer, and then people can actually track what happened to their own relatives during the Holocaust. Stories like this really happened.
You touched upon that, and we'll get back to that in a bit. You touched upon going into the past, and in Tel Aviv, and, I mean, places that one should visit, diaspora, to really get a good foundation of their past and of Israel. Again, we have a video of a place that some people wouldn't go maybe on the first time, but if they're there for the repeat visit, they may just want to see what it's like to be a cowboy in Israel. We'll take a look at that video.
We ventured to the Galilee to play cowboy and to ride the territory with one of Israel's most gracious
I like to
hosts.
think of establishing what you might call the complete guest farm, which would be simple and just simply have the facilities that people want and need for a good, restful holiday. We try not to organize things for people, but we like to have things available so that people can use it. That means tennis court and a lounge and a library, games, swimming pool, and lots of little nooks where people can go out and walk around and enjoy nature.
Meet Yehuda Avni and his wife Yoni, founders of Israel's only dude ranch, Vered HaGalil, a friendly family resort with 10 cozy cottages and a reputation for serving some of the finest fried chicken and lemon pie this side of the Rio Grande.
We are here 25 years, and still every time when I drive from here to Tiberia, the view of the lake and the mountains around, I get every time breathtaking, as if I see it the first time. And that's, I think, what's special about Galilee.
We've got mountains, we've got valleys, we've got canyons. So you don't even have to think about history, but the history is there. And it's just there depending on how much you are ready to absorb.
And how much you're willing to ride. Avni can arrange trail tours for an hour, for a day, or for a week. His relaxed attitude made most of us feel right at home, but not everybody.
Now the route today is going to take us down to the Mount of Beatitudes, and then we're going down to Capernaum and to Tapcha and to Chorazin, and this is the northern area of the Sea of Galilee, which I think you'll all enjoy.
We certainly did enjoy our ride up this hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, revered as the probable site of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. After some quiet moments, we rode a few more miles to Capernaum, the center of Jesus' ministry in the Galilee. The Gospels tell of many miraculous healings that happened here. Peter, John, Matthew, Mark, they all grew up in the Galilee. Tabcha is next. Time to rest the horses and learn why this sacred site draws visitors from around the world. Avni is a born teacher. His deep understanding of the area's history and natural science makes the day's outing as exciting for the mind as it is for the body.
We're sitting in the courtyard of the first church that was probably ever built in the Galilee area. The area now is called Tapcha, which is a derivation from the Arabic of the word heptabagan, or something like that, which means the 7 springs, which they have in this area. Tapcha is especially important to Christians because it was here that Jesus performed the miracle of the fish and the loaves, in which he fed with just a few fish and a few loaves. He fed multitudes of people who were sitting on the mount just behind us. Tapcha is also noted for the wonderful mosaics that they have of various animals, flowers, the flora and fauna of the area.
Our adventure continues at the ancient village of Chorazim.
What we have right here in front of us is the bathhouse, and it's an interesting fact now that I think of it, because it means maybe that people who've come from a long, dusty trip and are tired, the first thing they want to do is just get into the bath. And maybe that's the reason it's right here at the beginning of the village. This is the synagogue of Chorazin. The synagogue was more than a synagogue. It was like a community center at that time. It was used as a hotel for guests. It was used as a study center. It was used as a banquet hall. It was used as a study hall by the rabbis. And there was lots and lots of activity. It just wasn't a building that was used only for ceremonial purposes.
Yehuda Avni, the former Edward Stone of Chicago, came to Israel to fight in the War of Independence, met Yoni, and never left. He's proud of his diverse country, and he loves to introduce new friends to old friends whenever he can.
The Bedouins are accustomed to a type of hospitality where people visit back and forth, and guests are always welcome for coffee. They're welcome if they wish to spend the night. You can say no matter what people's interests are, we've got something that'll keep them satisfied.
If you want more information about Vered HaGalil or other adventure travel in Israel, please write us, care of Post Office Box 4004, Chicago, Illinois 60654.
I know that I'll probably never finish doing all the things that have to be done. So what I do, and what I don't do, I won't do, and we'll let the kids do it. And in the meantime, I enjoy myself.
Jacob, that gave us an idea of playing in Israel horses, and as we were talking, there's training for Arabian horses, but more on a solemn note, those are, as we call it, partners, cowboy partners. We have other partners in Israel, the people, the martyrs who died during the Holocaust, and it's so important for them to remember it. Could you please tell us about Yad Vashem?
Yes, definitely. I think that we have to remember our past in order to be able to create a better future for our people. And that's one of the reasons why Israel exists. And we believe we are in the lead in that respect. It's like the say of the Baal Shem Tov, famous rabbi, who said, and I always repeat that because it's the most important say, the forgetfulness leads to exile, and remembrance is the secret of redemption. Mm-hmm. We are busy with remembrance. Masada and Yad Vashem, the linkage between these two places is to prevent things like this of happening in the future, not just to our own people as much as to the rest of the world. And we are all praying for peace right now. Many people are gathering in one place, leaders of the world, in order to pray for peace. It's a good start.
You mentioned this linkage, and I think what happens, you touched upon it, is that when people leave Israel, they feel a more complex person. They are linked to so many more people they hadn't discovered before. And we want to thank you so much for, this is only a tease, a very, very brief introduction to Israel. We welcome you back again to talk more about it, and we do encourage you to visit this beautiful homeland. Thank you very much for being with us, Jacob Goldfine from the Ministry of Israeli Tourism. And for Focus, I'm Deborah Palmer.